Okay, so for the 6 concepts that I will be teaching for the week 11 discussion is population, sample, representative sample, random sampling, systematic sampling, and sampling bias, and how they connect to each other. So to start with the big picture, we have to introduce the population. This is every one of a thing or the full group we want to study. So for example, the complete set of all high school students in the United States. That would be our population. But because it's nearly impossible to study everybody in the United States that's in high school, we need a sample. So population, sample. Moving to the sample, a sample is a subset, so it's taken so researchers can study a manageable number of participants. This is why the sample needs to be representative, though. If you just take a handful of people, then you're not going to have equal representation of the whole population, which is why we call it a representative sample. So the proportions of gender, age, or ethnicity should match that of the population. For example, if the population is 60% female and 40% male, then the sample should also match that. It should look like the population, and a good analogy that I found to describe this is if the population is a jar full of jelly beans, the sample is a spoonful, but it should have the same mix of colors that represent the entire jar. So that really helps me to understand and differentiate the types of samples that you can take. Now I'm going to talk about sampling methods. So there's random sampling and systematic sampling. With random sampling, every member has an equal chance of being selected, which leads to a representative sample. But systematic sampling, it's every X person that's being chosen. And a lot of times the systematic sampling is easier to implement than random sampling because you're making sure that you have that representative sample that looks like the population that we started with. So now I'm going to talk about sampling bias. If the sample doesn't reflect the population, then we get sampling bias. This is due to selection method, like random sampling, or participant self-selection. Even a perfectly random method can go wrong if we accidentally leave out a key group, and this is why bias matters. It can lead to misleading or inaccurate results. And then, so I'm gonna show what happens here now with when groups are overrepresented or missing, and why that affects the sample from the population. And then lastly, I just want to recap. To study a population, you need a sample. The sample has to be representative of the whole population. There are 2 main methods, random and systematic. But systematic is probably the stronger way to go because you know you're getting every X person that's walking in through the door or however you're gathering that sample. And then the risks you have to be aware of are sampling bias and making sure that the sample is representative of the whole population. Thank you.